From billion-dollar verdicts to secret settlements, the NFL has been dragged into court more times than Tom Brady's been to the Super Bowl. We're talking antitrust violations, collusion scandals, and brain injury cover-ups that cost the league billions. Today, we're counting down every major lawsuit that rocked America's favorite sport, and trust me, some of these legal battles hit harder than Lawrence Taylor in his prime. Number 10, the deflated balls and stolen signal saga. All right, let's kick this off with the most ridiculous legal battles in NFL history, when the league went to war with its own golden boy. Remember Deflategate? 2015 AFC Championship game. The Patriots crushed the Colts 45-7, but suddenly everyone's talking about pounds per square inch levels in footballs. The NFL suspended Tom Brady for 4 games, claiming he was generally aware of equipment managers deflating footballs. Brady fought back hard. This thing went all the way to federal court. Judge Richard Berman initially ruled for Brady in September 2015, basically saying Roger Goodell acted like judge, jury, and executioner. The NFL appealed, and in 2016, the Second Circuit Court reversed it. Brady served his suspension in 2016, missing the first 4 games. But wait, there's more. Before Deflategate, we had Spygate in 2007. The Patriots got caught filming Jets' defensive signals from an unauthorized location. Bill Belichick got fined $500,000, the largest fine ever for a coach at the time. The Patriots lost a first-round draft pick and got hit with a $250,000 fine. Here's the wild part. These weren't traditional lawsuits against the NFL. These were battles within the league's disciplinary system that spilled into federal court. The legal precedent, it basically confirmed that the commissioner has near absolute power under the collective bargaining agreement. That's like giving your boss the power to be judge and jury when you mess up at work. Crazy, right? Number 9, player misconduct lawsuits. Now we're getting into the heavy stuff. The NFL's had to deal with countless lawsuits involving player misconduct, but some cases changed everything about how the league handles off-field issues. Michael Vick's dogfighting scandal in 2007 wasn't just a criminal case. It triggered massive civil lawsuits and forced the NFL to completely revamp its personal conduct policy. Vick served 21 months in federal prison and was suspended indefinitely by the NFL. The legal fallout was insane. Creditors sued him for millions while he was locked up. Then, there's the sexual assault cases. Ben Roethlisberger faced 2 separate lawsuits in 2009 and 2010. No criminal charges were filed, but the NFL still suspended him for violating the personal conduct policy. This set a huge precedent. The league could punish players even without criminal convictions. Most recently, Deshaun Watson faced 24 civil lawsuits from massage therapists alleging sexual assault and harassment. The cases were filed in 2021, and while most settled out of court, the NFL suspended Watson for 11 games and fined him $5 million, the largest fine for personal conduct in league history. These cases forced the NFL to create stricter personal conduct policies and showed that civil lawsuits could have massive impacts on players' careers, even without criminal charges. The league learned it couldn't just wait for the legal system, it had to act to protect the shield. Before we move on to the next one on the list, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. Thanks to all of you who do. Number 8, the Anthem kneeling collusion case. This one divided America like nothing else in sports. Colin Kaepernick takes a knee during the national anthem in 2016 to protest police brutality and racial injustice. By 2017, he's out of the league and files a collusion grievance against the NFL and its owners. The legal argument was simple but powerful. Kaepernick claimed the 32 teams conspired to keep him unemployed because of his protests. Eric Reed, who was the first to join Kaepernick in kneeling, filed his own grievance in 2018. Here's where it gets juicy. To prove collusion, they didn't just need to show one team didn't want them. They needed evidence that multiple teams or the league office actively conspired together. That's a high bar legally. In August 2018, arbitrator Stephen Burbank denied the NFL's motion for summary judgment, meaning there was enough evidence to proceed. The NFL was sweating bullets because discovery could have exposed private communications between owners. February 2019, boom, settlement announced. Terms, confidential. But reports later suggested it was less than $10 million split between both players. Some saw this as an admission of guilt by the NFL. Others said Kaepernick sold out his cause. The real impact? This case showed that even without criminal law involved, employment law and collective bargaining agreements could become weapons against the league. It also proved that social justice protests in sports could lead to serious legal consequences. Number 7, the St. Louis Rams relocation lawsuit. Oh man, this one's a doozy. St. Louis got absolutely played by Stan Kroenke and the NFL, and they fought back with lawyers instead of linebackers. 2016, the Rams pack up and head back to LA after 21 years in St. Louis. The city's furious because they bent over backwards to keep the team, even proposing a new $1.1 billion riverfront stadium. Kroenke? He bought land in Inglewood and built his own palace, Sophie Stadium. St. Louis County, and the Regional Convention and Sports Complex Authority filed suit in 2017. Their claim? The NFL violated its own relocation guidelines. The league requires teams to negotiate in good faith with their current city before moving. St. Louis said that was all BS. Kroenke had been planning the LA move since 2013. The lawsuit sought over $1 billion in damages. St. Louis claimed they lost millions in tax revenue. And don't even get me started on that savage relocation application Kroenke filed. He basically called St. Louis a dying city that couldn't support 3 pro teams. That's cold. The NFL tried everything to get out of St. Louis court. They knew a hometown jury would be pissed. They failed. Then, discovery got real interesting. The judge ordered NFL owners to turn over financial documents. Several owners got fined for dragging their feet. November 2021, and just weeks before trial, they settled for $790 million. The NFL was terrified of what might come out in court, especially with the Super Bowl coming to LA. St. Louis scored the largest settlement ever for a relocated team. The message? You can't just lie to a city and walk away without consequences. This settlement might make future relocations think twice about playing games with their hometown. Number 6, the 2011 player lockout antitrust lawsuit. March 2011. The NFL locks out its players after the collective bargaining agreement expires. But the players had a trick up their sleeve. They decertified their union, which allowed them to file an antitrust lawsuit against the league. The lead plaintiffs? Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees, basically the quarterback Mount Rushmore at the time. They claimed the lockout was an illegal group boycott that violated antitrust laws. Judge Susan Nelson sided with the players in April 2011, ordering the lockout to end. The NFL appealed, and the Eighth Circuit Court stayed her ruling. For months, football's future hung in the balance. No free agency, no trades, no minicamps. The lawsuit put massive pressure on both sides. Players were losing game checks, owners were losing revenue. Finally, in July 2011, they reached a new 10-year CBA. The players got a bigger revenue share, around 47%, better health benefits, and reduced off-season workouts. The owners got a rookie wage scale and kept the 16-game season. This case showed that players could use antitrust law as a nuclear option against the owners. It's like mutually assured destruction. Nobody really wins if it goes all the way. The threat alone forces compromise. Number 5, the Sunday ticket antitrust verdict. This one just happened, and it's massive. In June 2024, a Los Angeles jury dropped a bomb on the NFL, a $4.70 billion verdict for violating antitrust laws with their Sunday ticket package. The case started way back in 2015 when a San Francisco sports bar called the Mucky Duck, great names, sued the NFL. The claim? The league illegally restricted competition by only offering Sunday ticket through DirecTV and forcing fans to buy all out-of-market games instead of letting them pick individual teams. 2.4 million residential subscribers and 48,000 businesses joined the class action. They argued this arrangement inflated prices. Some Vegas hotels were paying $120,000 a year just to show out-of-market games. The NFL's defense was that they have an antitrust exemption for broadcasting. The jury didn't buy it. They awarded $4.7 billion in damages. Under antitrust law, that could be tripled to over $14 billion. Plot twist. In August 2024, Judge Philip Gutierrez completely overturned the verdict. He said the plaintiff's economic experts used flawed methodology and the jury didn't follow instructions on calculating damages. The case is now on appeal to the Ninth Circuit. If the original verdict stands, each NFL team could owe nearly $450 million. That's more than some franchises were worth a decade ago. This case could completely reshape how we watch NFL games in the future. Number 4, the concussion settlement. Now we're in the big leagues of lawsuits. This is the one that changed football forever and cost the NFL close to $1 billion. It started in 2011 when former players began filing lawsuits claiming the NFL knew about the dangers of concussions but hid the information. By 2012, over 4,500 former players had joined various lawsuits that got consolidated into one massive case. The players' lawyers had damning evidence. The NFL created a mild traumatic brain injury committee in 1994 that spent years downplaying concussion risks. Meanwhile, players were developing CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, at alarming rates. When Mike Webster's brain was examined after his death, Dr. Bennett Omalu found CTE. The NFL initially tried to discredit him. By 2023, Boston University found CTE in 345 out of 376 former NFL players' brains they studied. That's over 91%. In 2013, the NFL agreed to a $765 million settlement, but Judge Anita Brody rejected it. She worried it wasn't enough money. They came back with an uncapped settlement that could pay out for 65 years. The final deal? Players could get up to $5 million for ALS, $4 million for deaths involving CTE, $3.5 million for Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. The settlement's already paid out over $1 billion in counting. But here's the kicker. The NFL admitted no wrongdoing. They basically paid $1 billion to make the problem go away without saying we screwed up. The real victory for players? Rule changes. No more three-man wedges on kickoffs, strict protocols for helmet-to-helmet hits, independent neurologists on sidelines. This lawsuit literally changed how football is played. Every flag for hitting a defenseless receiver, that's because of this case. Number 3, American Needle v. NFL. 2010. This case might sound boring, it's about hats, but it nearly destroyed the NFL's entire business model. American Needle was a small apparel company that had been making NFL-licensed hats since the 1960s. Life was good until 2001 when the NFL gave Reebok an exclusive deal for all NFL headwear. American Needle sued, claiming the NFL's 32 teams illegally conspired to eliminate competition in the apparel market. The NFL's defense was brilliant. They claimed they were a single entity for business purposes, so they couldn't conspire with themselves. It's like saying you can't conspire with your own reflection. This case went all the way to the Supreme Court. If the NFL won, they'd basically be immune from antitrust law. They could control everything: merchandise, TV rights, player movement, without legal challenges. May 2010, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against the NFL. Justice Stevens wrote that the teams are separate businesses that compete on and off the field. Just because they cooperate for some things doesn't make them one entity. This was huge. It meant the NFL could still face antitrust challenges for pretty much any collective business decision. Want to restrict free agency? Antitrust lawsuit. Want to control where games are broadcast? Antitrust lawsuit. The immediate impact? The case went back to lower court and eventually settled. But the precedent? That's forever. This ruling opened the door for every antitrust suit that followed, including that massive Sunday ticket case. Without American Needle, none of those later lawsuits would have been possible. Number 2, USFL v. NFL. 1986. Picture this. A young, brash real estate developer named Donald Trump owns the New Jersey Generals of the USFL. The league's bleeding money, so Trump convinces them to move from spring to fall football and sue the NFL for $1.7 billion, claiming monopolistic practices. The USFL's case was actually pretty strong. They showed how the NFL pressured TV networks not to broadcast USFL games, tried to stop stadiums from renting to USFL teams, and signed contracts designed to crush the competition. They even had the smoking gun, the Porter presentation, where Harvard professor Michael Porter literally gave the NFL a blueprint on how to conquer the USFL. The trial was a circus. Trump testified, NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle testified, even Howard Cosell showed up. The USFL's lawyer Harvey Meyerson compared the NFL to a robber baron monopoly. The NFL's lawyer painted the USFL as a badly run league, trying to blame others for its failures. Al Davis, owner of the Raiders, testified for the USFL. His team was the only one excluded from the lawsuit in exchange for his testimony. After 42 days of testimony, the jury of 5 women and 1 man deliberated for 31 hours over 5 days. The verdict: the NFL was guilty of monopolistic practices. The jury declared the NFL a duly adjudicated illegal monopoly that had willfully acquired and maintained monopoly status through predatory tactics. The USFL had won. But then, the damages. How much did the jury award? $1. $1 single dollar. Under antitrust law, that gets tripled to $3. After years of legal battles, the USFL got a check for $3.76. The extra 76 cents was interest. When Pete Rozelle first heard they'd been found guilty, witnesses said he looked like he was having a heart attack until he heard the damages amount. Why so little? The jury basically said, yeah, the NFL's a monopoly, but the USFL sucked anyway. They found the USFL's problems were mostly self-inflicted: abandoning spring football, overspending on players, poor management. Juror Margaret Lilienfeld later said, the NFL was a monopoly, but we didn't feel the USFL had suffered damage. The USFL folded immediately after the verdict, canceling their planned 1986 season. By then, they'd lost over $163 million. The NFL learned it could survive antitrust challenges if the challenger was weak enough. But it also showed the NFL was vulnerable to antitrust law. They just needed a stronger opponent than Trump's USFL. The verdict sent a message. Being a monopoly isn't enough to lose big in court if your opponent shot themselves in the foot first. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v =ETMFKMVUI. Number 1, Radovich v. NFL. The granddaddy of all NFL lawsuits, this 1957 Supreme Court case literally made every other lawsuit on this list possible. Bill Radovich was a guard who played for the Detroit Lions from 1938 to 1941, made All-Pro, then served in World War II. When he came back, he wanted to play in California to be near his sick father. The Rams wouldn't pay him fairly, so he jumped to the Los Angeles Dons of the rival All-America Football Conference. When the AAFC folded in 1949, Radovich tried to return to the NFL, but he was blacklisted. He couldn't play, couldn't even get a job coaching high school because the NFL threatened anyone who hired him. This was the NFL's way of punishing players who went to rival leagues. Radovich sued, claiming the NFL violated antitrust laws. The NFL's defense? Baseball had an antitrust exemption from a 1922 Supreme Court case, so football should have one too. They're both sports, right? The case went to the Supreme Court. In a 6-3 decision, they ruled against the NFL. Justice Clark wrote that football was clearly interstate commerce subject to antitrust laws. Baseball's exemption was a weird historical accident that wouldn't be extended to other sports. This changed everything. Without this ruling, no rival leagues could exist. Goodbye AFL merger that created the Super Bowl. There'd be no free agency. Teams could control players forever. No lawsuits against NFL business practices. The NFL would basically be a legal monopoly. Every player who's ever hit free agency, every team that's moved cities, every lawsuit that's challenged the NFL's power, they all trace back to Bill Radovich fighting for the right to work where he wanted. The irony? Radovich settled his personal case for chump change and never played again. But his Supreme Court victory created the modern NFL. Without Radovich, there's no player movement, no competing leagues, no legal challenges to the shield. He lost his career, but gave every future player their freedom. And there you have it. Every major time the NFL got dragged into court and had to pay up. From Radovich opening the legal floodgates to billion-dollar brain injury settlements, these lawsuits shaped the game we love today. The NFL might be a $15 billion juggernaut, but even they can't tackle the law. These cases prove that whether you're a player, a city, or even a hat company, if the NFL screws you over, you can fight back in court. So next time you see a flag for helmet-to-helmet contact or wonder why your team left town, remember, there's probably a lawsuit behind it. Hit that subscribe button if you want more deep dives into football's wildest stories, and let me know in the comments which lawsuit shocked you the most. Until next time, keep your helmets on and your lawyers on speed dial.